And welcome back, everyone, to Lantern Corps. Today's Lantern Corps cuts us from The Mask, Smoking. Uh, who asked the question? We did Mirko for a fight with Yoruichi a few weeks back, so let's just talk about it for Lantern Corps, why not? And Mirko, which I believe is our hero name, her real name is Rumi Usagi or something like that. One second, Mirko. Again, I always forget her hero name. Mirko. It's her real name is Rumi. I was half right with him. Usagi Yama. She's obviously the Rabbit hero. She's still, even at the end of the series, a top hero. Even though she's lost, I think, every one of her limbs, which is now replaced with like a mechanical replacement. But still, she's a fan favorite for reasons other than, but more importantly, she is just honestly kind of just an awesome side character. However, that actually does raise a big problem when doing a Lantern Corps for a character like her. She isn't a main character. She's not part of the main cast. She is a side character. She is a famous side character in her series. She is well known. She has that badass moment of just tearing through all those high-end Nomu and not stopping. But she arrives relatively late into the story, like at least halfway into the story, if not even a little further beyond. She shows up basically when Endeavor has to take the spot of number one hero because we get the hero lineup. And even then, we don't even see her really interacting with anyone until he fights the high-end Nomu and she goes in to help him out. And even then, we barely get anything of her until we get that moment with her in the high-end Nomus. So, where she falls on the emotional spectrum is a very touch-and-go subject, to say the least. Unfortunately, though, the answer is actually very simple where she falls on the emotional spectrum. And normally, I like to try to give at least 2 to 3 options just to vary it up. But unfortunately, this is one of those cases where that's not going to be an option. There is really only one answer, I think. Now, to be fair, let's break it all down. The entire top row here, she is not an absolute lantern. Not in the least. She just does not work as any form of an absolute lantern. Not the absolute Green Lanterns, which is doing the right thing. Okay, maybe to some degree she could have been that. She's not a lantern, or she's not an absolute Red Lantern or Schrödinger Red. She's not an absolute yellow/gold lantern, which is lack of fear, self-enlightenment, all that stuff. And she's not an absolute Black Lantern, which is essentially like freedom/chaos, anything goes, more or less. But then we get into at least the main canon, or the main timeline lanterns. She's not a Lantern of Sorrow, certainly not. We can't really say she's a Gold Lantern, because we don't know what her backstory actually is. If we had a backstory where she was basically kind of always like we see her, I'd actually say there could be an argument for that, because Gold Lanterns are the Lanterns of Happiness, but there's a stipulation to that, is that you've had to always been happy throughout your life, more or less. And I'm sure there must be some minor conditions for it. Like, you could probably have been like sad a little bit, but we're talking about like never like being angry or rageful. None of the other core emotions here, essentially. Like any of the, like maybe being sad once probably wouldn't affect this, but you would have to be generally happy most of your life. And I mean, if we're looking at it at least from the standpoint of when we meet her to the end of the series, I can actually buy that. She's never not seemed to fight. She's kind of like an All Might. Honestly, she would have been a good. Think about that. With her quirk, which is all physicality, she actually would have been a really good one for all candidate. No, sorry, one for all candidate. Her quirk's physical already. So so she actually probably wouldn't have had to work out hard for it, and then it would just amp her natural rabbit physiology. Now you're looking at someone who's probably literally leaping skyscrapers in a single bound. So yeah, actually, that's an interesting video. Who else would have been good candidates for One for All? That's a video I could maybe do someday. But so if I were just judging it based on what we saw, then yeah, I could at least say Gold's an option. But the fact is, we don't know what the rest of her backstory is. She never felt shame for anything, so she's not a Ultraviolet. while she's certainly saving people, she's also really likes a good fight and violence. So I don't know if I could honestly say she makes a good candidate for a White Lantern. Um, she's not a Black Lantern. Obviously, she's not a Lantern of Death, nor is she dead. She's not the embodiment of death, anything like that. I wouldn't say she's really a good candidate for Hope. I mean, yeah, as a hero, she inspires hope, but I would say that there are far better heroes that do that. All Might being one, Deco being another. Um, so yeah, she's not a Lantern of Greed, not really that greedy. Not, she has compassion, sure. As a hero, she definitely you kind of need it on some level. Even Bakugo, as much of a shit as he was in the originals, in the first part of the series, isn't like completely devoid of compassion. He's just got a huge chip on his shoulder. She's not a Lantern of Love, unless you want to say she's doing it for the love of fighting. And even that's debatable. She's not, despite how aggressive she is, she's not raging out. There's no anger in there. It's more just kind of like a bloodlust, which is hilarious to say for someone who's got a quirk that's rabid. And despite a lot of heroes being, heroes, and villains should be afraid of heroes, a lot of villains really aren't that afraid of heroes. I mean, they show concern when a hero's there, but there's very few heroes that legitimately strike fear into villains. And I don't think she falls among them, at least from what we saw. So it's gotta be Green Lanterns. It's almost 7 minutes worth of a video just to give you the boring answer that she's a Green Lantern. But it's true. She is a textbook Green Lantern. Overcoming great fear, which I'm sure she does feel fear, but she's got the guts and bravery to just overpower it. And again, the amount of willpower she had to literally have her limbs torn off and to keep going is nothing short of insanity. So, yeah, she is a Green Lantern up the yin yang. She make a great Green Lantern. But this is just my opinion. Maybe if you can think of a legitimate reason that she could fall into any of these other Lantern Corps, put it in the comments below. I could still see an argument for something like Gold, especially if we ever did find out her backstory. Maybe there might be a minor argument for Hope and maybe an absolute Green Lantern, possibly, but I think Green is the most likely candidate. It's the safest candidate. So let me know what you think in the comments below. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I'll see you next time.